Okay, so Piers Morgan was very angry and upset following the interview that Meghan and Harry had with Oprah Winfrey. Okay, he's very upset because they've made claims of that somebody in the royal family is like a bit racist. And he's upset about quite a few things that they said in their interview, actually, and he gets very angry. Okay, and it results in him like, I mean, he has quite a few arguments about this with a lot of people on this show, but it results with him like in the end like storming off the set. Okay, and he's now left Good Morning Britain for good. I think it's a shame that he's not going to be on Good Morning Britain anymore because I've always found him really entertaining. Okay. To be honest, like, I do think the way that he reacted over this Meghan and Harry interview, I do think was a little bit childish, okay, the storming off at the end, okay, because, you know, he always says about freedom of speech, okay, so he should he should let other people speak sometimes as well, okay, but, you know, that said, I have always liked Piers Morgan on Good Morning Britain. Okay, sometimes maybe he gets too heated and, like I said, doesn't always, you know, let other people like get their say properly. Okay, you know, nobody's perfect, but he's very entertaining, and the show's not going to be the same without him now. Okay, but this was some of his thoughts on the Meghan and Harry interview.
I'm angry to the point of bawling over today. I'm sickened by what I've just had to watch.
Okay, a number of people might be upset.
Sorry, you can come to you can defend
it
in a minute. I'm just going to say what I'm going to say.
Okay.
This is a 2-hour trash-a-thon of our royal family, of the monarchy, of everything the Queen has worked so hard for, and it's all been done as Prince Philip lies in hospital. They trash everybody. They basically make out the entire royal family a bunch of white supremacists by dropping this race bombshell without...
Use that phrase.
They didn't name which one it was. They just throw it out there. So it could be any member of the royal family. And Harry says, I'll never say who it was. Well, you better say it fast.
What's the part of the interview that you're referring to?
The bit where they accuse an unnamed member of the royal family. This is the race bombshell that Meghan drops, that Harry then talks about.
Okay, so it's the claim that somebody in the royal family was concerned about how dark their baby's skin colour was going to be, okay, that somebody had been having conversations about that, okay. Now, I think it is a little bit wrong of them to say that and not name who it came from, okay, because then it is sort of putting the whole of the royal family under, like, suspicion of being racist, okay, when we don't actually know who it was who said that, and we're not going to know. So it's a little bit unfair in that sense that it then puts the whole of the royal family under suspicion.
It's odd, though, because you were comfortable about sharing everything else in that interview, but you're prepared to let that bombshell just lie completely unanswered so that we now have to think it could be any one of the royal family that was apparently racist about the skin colour of your child. I just don't think that's acceptable. They trash Kate. She's taken down. She apparently made poor Meghan cry. Well, she trashes her.
Yeah,
they trash Prince Charles.
That's in response
they trash
to a question
William.
about the
They trash the monarchy, the institution.
And
you know what? We're going to bring in...
Well, it'd been in the news that that they reckon that Meghan had made Kate cry. She'd upset Kate and made her cry. Okay, well, Meghan said it was the other way round. Okay. But she said Kate apologised and sent her flowers, okay? So, to me, it didn't sound like she was particularly trashing Kate. I think it was more the fact that it was like, it was always being portrayed as if Meghan was always the baddie, and she just wanted that little thing corrected, you know? You know, if Meghan's telling the truth, I don't know, but, okay, if it was the other way round, that, like, Kate had made Meghan cry. It sounds to me like Meghan wasn't actually annoyed at Kate because she said she apologised. She was just annoyed, like, about how she was being betrayed, and she just wanted that little thing corrected. That's how that came across to me.
But Meghan has, within this interview, said it got so bad that she was suicidal. And I think a lot of people will feel extremely concerned about that. So
OK, again, let's have the names. Who did you go to? What did they say to you? I'm sorry, I don't believe a word she says, Meghan Markle.
Well, that's a
I wouldn't believe it if she read me a weather report. And the fact that she's fired up this onslaught against our royal family, I think is contemptible. Chris, you're the impartial royal editor.
It's a shame you're not sitting between us, frankly.
I think I should. Do you want to swap now? Listen, when I put my keyboard down, as it were, at 3 o'clock this morning after I'd stopped watching it live, I was kind of paralysed in my seat for a little bit. There was a lot to take in. I mean, that's an understatement, isn't it? I mean, someone saying that they had suicidal thoughts, I don't think you can say that she was lying at that point. She had these thoughts, pretty serious ones. She took them to HR. Now, look, we talked last week about Buckingham Palace's HR department. What did they do about the victims when this bullying complaint against Meghan was put in? I don't think Buckingham Palace's HR department
her camp refused
very well
hang
at
on.
all.
On that point, Chris, her camp immediately said they can't be believed. Those victims can't be believed. And yet we're supposed to believe everything Meghan Markle now says about her own terrible ordeal of bullying and racism and all the rest of it. You can't have it both ways. We're not allowed to believe the apparent victims of her own bullying, but we have to believe everything she says.
Well,
let me give my reaction to you, Piers, OK? I just, your every rant you've just given the last hour, it's honestly, you're such a liar and a disgrace.
Yeah, but you're about to do the same thing. I'm giving you the platform. You talk about the interview. You trash me every time you come on. You trash me every time you come on, which is exactly the thing you accuse me of doing. If you've got something to say about the interview, say it.
Let me finish. You bring out coverage about Meghan and Harry on their wedding day and the engagement, but conveniently forget to show the coverage before they got engaged, between the engagement and the marriage. So you conveniently forget that Prince Harry, in November 2016, talked about the racist undertones of the media. You conveniently forget all of that to paint this picture that all was rosy and hunky-dory. Nonsense. And then you are lording over the Queen. Listen, by all means, let's applaud the Queen when she does something right. But when she does something wrong, we need to call her out.
What does she do wrong? What does she do wrong?
What kind of grandmother? Let me finish. What kind of grandmother will be so close to her grandson, Harry, but then not use her power and influence as queen to protect them from the racist media coverage?
I find what you're saying about the Queen actually disgraceful. I find what you're saying... You're entitled to your opinion, Shola. I find... Sorry, no, I'm allowed to respond to what you've just said.
Is rooted, listen, you might learn something. The royal family as an institution is rooted in colonialism, white supremacy, and racism. The legacy is right there. So you're now surprised that a comment would have been made by several members of the royal family about how dark Archie's skin is.
It's not several members, actually. No, you can't spew lies.
You are more outraged that Harry and Meghan...
Are we allowed to engage in any of this?
Let me finish.
Well, you're not stopping.
That Harry and Meghan had the audacity to speak that truth, than you should be at the actual outrage of racism.
Right, OK. Am I allowed to respond to this? Am I allowed to respond yet?
You can respond now.
OK. I think what you just said about the Queen is disgusting. I think it's unbelievable. You talk about the behaviour of a 19...
Am I lying when I said that?
Allow me to say what I'm... Allow me to explain.
And the institution is protected.
Allow me to defend our royal family, thank you.
You tell me.
Right, if you stop shouting, I'll answer you. You're going to stop shouting?
Oh, after you stop shouting.
Yeah, let me tell you why I think what you said was disgusting. The Queen is 94 years old, right? Her husband is 99. He's lying in hospital for the 4th week, seriously ill. You talk about how could... Please let me speak, Shola.
Everybody, come on, let's
please
just
let me
stay
speak.
calm.
OK, whenever you're finished.
Recovery, but the reality is you cannot
Shola, I'd like to finish my sentence, please.
Any omissions or conduct
I would like to finish my sentence.
What your family has done that has perpetuated racism.
Okay.
You don't cover it up.
Can I please finish my sentence?
You have to be able to call her out when she's done something wrong.
I'm going to finish my sentence now if you stop shouting at me. Here's the finish of my sentence.
Guys.
You talk about the behaviour of a 94-year-old monarch and you say that she should have done more. What about the behaviour of Harry and Meghan, who are spray gunning his family on global television as Philip lies in hospital? You might laugh. I don't think it's funny. I think it's piling
what I don't think is
hurt
funny,
on the
Piers
Queen,
Morgan.
who is already
What I don't
suffering
think is
greatly
funny.
from her husband's
So I'm going
illness.
to respond to that. What I don't think is funny, I'll tell you what I don't think is funny. It's the fact that you are such a disappointment. I wish to God one day you would even surprise me. You constantly use your platform as a wealthy, white privileged man with power and influence to
Oh, what a
aggravate
load of
and
nonsense,
escalate
honestly.
the biggest,
What a load of
sexist,
race-baiting
racist,
nonsense.
and the misogynist
What
attacks
a
on
load
Meghan
of
Markle.
race-baiting
And you do it so
nonsense.
shamelessly.
We have done
That's the
more.
point.
We have done
So the
more
Queen is
on racial
94,
issues on this
Philip is
show
99.
than any other
So that
show
means you
on
can't
television.
call out anything they've done
You're
that is
talking,
wrong.
Chola. You can
want
keep
to deny
shouting.
that the royal family has any racist undertone or actions against the first biracial, but simply because you're in love with the Queen?
No,
You
I
can love the
think
Queen,
what you're doing
but
now.
you can love
Okay.
the Queen, but you should be able to call out actions done by the royal family when they've got it wrong.
Yeah, I'm
That's
not going to
the
let
point.
you trash the Queen. Sorry. Just not going to
Trash
let you
the
do
Queen.
it.
Well,
I'm not going to let you do it. But you've had your say. Let's bring in Johnson Bahari now. I presume you'll let Johnson Bahari talk, will you? He won the Victoria Cross for serving his country. Maybe give him time to speak now. Johnson, welcome to the programme. As you can see, temperatures are running high about this. You won the Victoria Cross serving this country. You're a black man. Is this country racist? You know the royal family well. You've met many of them. Is the royal family racist?
I could only speak from my experience. I personally, my time, been loads of invitation, visiting the royal family, visit in Buckingham Palace, charity engagement with Prince Harry and other members of the royal family. And the way I have been treated up to date by the general public in Britain, I could never say that.
So when you hear that, you hear Meghan Markle in particular characterise the royal family as a racist institution, what is your reaction to that?
My personal reaction is, I don't believe it because I never experienced it. I went to the palace on numerous occasions where the audience is quite diverse. Everyone is happy and having a good time. And the royal family, yeah, I mean, for me personally, I never seen it, never experienced it.
Again, of the front pages when they got engaged and when they got married, which we've got here, I think. This is a montage. You could not get a bigger collection of more ecstatic front pages welcoming the first biracial woman to the royal family. I remember covering the wedding. There was euphoria from the public and the media. And yet she says in the interview, from the beginning of our relationship, the press were racist.
But the point that I think she was making was that headline that said straight out of Compton. Now, that might not mean anything to other people, but to a black person, Shaka, you'd understand this. It is very painful. It's saying you're ghetto, that you're rough. And other people might laugh it off. But remember, if you've lived with this backdrop bubbling away, Piers, if I can, I'd liken it to if you're blind, if you're sight impaired your whole life, somebody might say nasty things to you every so often, but your whole life is affected by where people place things or don't place things, or whether there's a steps or there's a ramp, your accessibility to life, how much opportunity you may or may not have. I don't think she was ready for this at all. And I actually don't think Harry was either. I know from experience, it's very painful for a white partner to see firsthand all these little microaggressions and what have you, and they're shocked. If somebody brings up, yeah, but what colour is your child going to be? And I've been in that situation as well. It is deeply shocking. It might not seem shocking to the person saying it.
Let me jump in on that. We don't know the context of that conversation. We don't know who's supposed to have said it. Can I put to you just a scenario that may have happened? And I wonder whether you find this, you would automatically think this is offensive and racist. If you have two parents, one's white and one's black, as in Meghan's case, and she's pregnant and going to have a baby, is it racist and offensive for a family member to say, oh, what colour might the baby be? I mean, I would imagine in most families, that might be a question they think and they might ask, but not in a racist or derogatory manner. Now, tell me if I'm wrong.
Piers, why does it matter what colour a child is? As long as a child is healthy.
It's just it might just be curiosity, Tricia. In other words, it may not have been a malevolent thing to say.
You know what I think it is, right? I think that what people were really worried about is that they were worried that her baby might come out with like really bright ginger hair like his dad, but they didn't want to come across as if they were being prejudiced against gingers. So they were trying to be subtle, and they were being like, so, Meghan, your baby, maybe it'll have dark skin like your side of the family, you know. Because really they were worried if it looks like his dad, he'll have bright ginger hair. No, I'm only kidding. As a ginger myself, it's okay for me to take the piss, okay? But it is true that, like, you can have a conversation. You could say to, like, a couple that were expecting a baby, you could say, oh, I wonder what colour hair your child's going to have, whether it be black or blonde or whatever. Or you could say, oh, you know, I wonder what eye colour, you know, your child's going to have, like, which, you know, parent they're going to sort of look most like. Okay. But if you were to say something like, oh, I wonder what skin colour they're going to have, then people are going to be like, oh, but what does it matter? What does it matter? And think that you're being racist, you know? When, like, ideally, if there was no racism, like, you could talk about skin colour just like you could talk about hair colour, okay? But then, you know, that said, if Meghan and Harry, like, believe that, you know, if they're saying that there's been, like, regular conversation, that somebody had been having, like, regular conversations about how dark Archie's skin colour's going to be, and they believe it was in a in a racist, you know, context, well then, you know, yeah, I do believe that is a legitimate concern, okay? I do think, you know, I don't blame them for being bothered by that.
Here's another curious thing. People are often, when I've got my hair natural, people are curious about what my hair feels like. Yeah. So they'll come up behind me while I'm doing something and run their filthy hands through my hair. It's only curiosity.
Yeah, it seems quite often now that touching black people's hair gets brought up as something racist that some white people do. Now, I kind of think, I don't think strangers should be going up to people and touching their hair, okay? I mean, it's a bit different, like, if it's friends and they, like, don't mind, that's different, but I don't think people should be going up to strangers and touching their hair, no. But the hair touching thing, that actually can be a two-way thing. Like, some white people that have gone on holiday abroad before, like, have said, you know, particularly if it's somebody with, like, say, like, very blonde hair or red hair, sometimes, like, people, if they're not used to seeing those colours very often, they sort of, they want to come and have a look at their hair, okay? And, like, some places, the women like to, along the beach, the women like to braid people's hair, okay? And my auntie, when she went on holiday once, and she used to have long blonde hair, like, they kept constantly being like, oh, can I braid your hair? Can I braid your hair? Because they were like, well, they just didn't see blonde hair very often, okay? So, like, they were curious, and I suppose they wanted to have a look and have a touch of her hair, okay? So I don't think it's actually racist to acknowledge that, you know, people look different, okay, and have different characteristics, okay? But, like I said, I think it's inappropriate to go up to strangers in the street and start touching their hair, okay? You know, people like their personal space, you know, don't like their personal space to be invaded, okay? So I do think people should definitely respect that.
They might make comment about my feet or talk about me in front of me. It's only curiosity.
So any context that conversation may... We don't know who the conversation was with or the context, but what you're saying is any context in which that kind of conversation happened is automatically racist.
If you are working against a backdrop of non-stop stuff, it does take one straw, only takes one straw to break the camel's back. And what gets me is why is everybody else such an expert about racism against black people? I'm sorry, I'm sorry, Piers. You don't get to call out what is and isn't racism against black people. You can call out all the other stuff. I'll leave you to call out all the other stuff you want, but leave the racism stuff to us.
I think when Meghan Markle calls the royal family a racist institution, it's a very serious allegation.
She doesn't use the phrase racist institution.
Actually, they do. Sorry, they do. They portray the royal family as racist. And it's a very incendiary charge. And I don't think it actually is fair to the royal family to not name the supposed racist.
Sad family situation. I know Harry says he hopes that time will heal those family bonds. My goodness me, it's going to be a lot harder after this interview.
I think William is going to be absolutely spitting blood about the way Meghan Markle took down his wife on national TV. I think he's going to be seething at the betrayal. And people can dress this up any way they like. This is supposedly the Duke and Duchess of Privacy, spending 2 hours revealing all sorts of unbelievable secrets about their family.
They've never said they want 100%
we're told that Oprah
privacy.
had nothing off limits. Not a question about her own father, her own family. Not one question about why she's disowned all her own family, why none of the family were at the wedding, but in the place of the family was Oprah Winfrey, who she'd met once in her life. Sorry, I'm calling this out for what I see it as, which is somebody who's a ruthless social climber and is now destroying or trying to destroy the image of the monarchy in this country, and I think it's shameful.
I think it's desperately,
everyone's entitled to their
sad.
opinions. Tricia, final question for you. If you tried to invent a show that had all this, you'd reject it as being too outlandish.
Well, you'd call it The Crown.
No, actually, I wouldn't. The name of the show would be Bullying, Piers, and I'm afraid at the moment you'd be the star.
Really? Not Meghan Markle, who drove out a load of female staff with her bullying? Or does that not count?
Piers, listening to you this morning, I'm saddened. You know what I wish for you? I wish for you only really wonderful things. I hope that one of your sons meets a beautiful black woman and gets married to them, and then you will understand.
Actually, I would love that. Why would I have any problem with that? Why does every criticism of these two have to be framed as racism?
You won't have a problem.
It's important.
Of finding a different way to explain, not to you, but to so many people, on why what is being said is so wrong.
Right.
I've walked into institutions as the only person of colour and experienced covert and overt racism on so many occasions. And why the Meghan interview really resonates with me is because an ex-work colleague, not of this show, asked me if I was worried about the shade of cocoa that my son was going to come out.
Right.
So I fully understand the hurt that is behind all of that.
Right, let me ask...
And when you're mixed race, what you find, in my personal experience, and there may be other people that may come forward and say this, is that when you are a lighter shade of black, people gain confidence and feel that they can say things to you that they wouldn't say to a black person.
That's such an interesting point.
And that is my experience of all of this.
Right. And by the way, I completely respect that, right? And that's why I wanted to get you on the programme today. It was my suggestion to have you on to talk about this.
But Piers,
right?
And thank you so much for having me on the programme. I really appreciate it. But I just want you also to be aware of the power of your words. And I'm not saying that you're a racist, but what I do...
What are you saying?
Do you know what I honestly feel? I feel as though because of your previous relationship with Meghan Markle, you've sometimes...
I didn't have a relationship with Meghan Markle.
But you met up with her, you knew her...
I knew her briefly.
Right, so we've joked about it on the show.
All that did was...
Piers.
I'm allowed to speak.
OK, talk.
All that did was inform me that she's a bit of a cut and run.
Right.
Right, throughout her life,
and
all her family, her father, her ex-husband, her ex-friends, they've all been cut out of her life, right? And it's an interesting observation that I happen to be one of those people.
An interesting observation.
Piers has talked a lot of times on Good Morning Britain about how he had a friendship with Meghan, but then when she met Harry, he thinks that Meghan ghosted him, OK? And he's talked lots of times, he's mentioned that on Good Morning Britain. He's brought that up, and, you know, he's kind of a bit upset about it, OK? But I kind of think, like, it's not like she's his sister, is it? Like, I mean, I can understand if two people have been like good mates, like, you know, really close for years, and then like one of them like just started ignoring the other, then I understand like why that would be hurtful. But like by the sounds of it, it doesn't sound like they were like really, that Piers and Meghan were like really close bosom buddies or anything like that. So do you think he makes a bit of a too big a thing about this, you know, about her ghosting him, you know, like I don't think it should be that much of a big deal. Bit too much.
Let me.
I do feel.
Right, can I finish
this situation that you are struggling?
Guys, if we're going to have this conversation,
you've got to let me talk.
I talk.
Right. Can we talk about the programme? It doesn't really matter what I think of Meghan Markle. It doesn't matter whether I believe her or not. What matters is the damage that she is accused of doing to the royal family. And let me ask you honestly, on the issue of race, she has now got the whole of America and the worst of the world, frankly, looking upon the palace, the monarchy, the Queen, everyone in the royal family as a bunch of racists. And it all comes down to two things that she said in the interview. One is something she didn't hear, but Harry reported back to her, that a senior member of the royal family that wasn't the Queen or Prince Philip, so presumably is either Charles or William, we would hazard a guess, has made a comment to Harry about what colour skin his baby may be if the relationship progresses.
Okay, but there was concern about the way in which that question was asked.
That's my question for you. She said there was concern. Harry didn't say that. And my question for you is this, and it's a straight question I think a lot of people are asking, because you've been in this position, right? And you've been equally offended.
On the receiving end of that
question. Is there a qualitative difference between somebody perhaps innocently saying to you, out of interest, if you have one parent is white, one parent is black, you know, what colour could your baby be? Let me finish. What colour could your baby be? Is there a difference between that question phrased in that innocent, perhaps, way, and somebody doing it in a tone that says, well, how dark is your baby going to be?
Well, I think,
in a derogatory, perhaps racist
right,
tone.
Exactly, and there is a difference. But what we're getting from the interview is that it was said in a negative way.
She said that, but he didn't, did he?
Listen, stop separating Harry and Meghan. They are a team, quite clearly. A very strong team. And I do believe that she backs him up and he backs her up.
Right.
So, and like I said, tone and language is everything.
But is there a difference?
Okay,
but let me ask you,
when it was said to me, the key word was, are you worried?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
But that to me is racist.
And there's a big difference.
That to me is racist.
But that's what she
is
reports.
racist.
Do you think it's racist? It's a legitimate question many people have asked. Is it racist, do you think, if, for argument's sake, it was William or Charles? Let's not put a name to this person. We don't know. And part of the problem, I know you agree with me about this, it'd be easier if they just said who it was.
Right.
Right? I'll come to that. But is there a difference? If it was said, perhaps in all innocence, right, and they just said, oh, what colour baby might you have, without any suggestion of it being a concern or a worry if it had darker skin, would that in itself, would just the question be racist?
That in itself is fine, but you have to think about how it feels on the receiving end, because what we're speculating is as to how that message.
I don't know how it was communicated.
Right.
But what I would say to you is, if it was done as a worry or concern,
we also have to take into consideration how it felt. The other thing that we also have to think about, and I've publicly said this on Twitter, Piers, I agree with you now that I feel that they should have named the person, because all it's led to is all of us asking loads of questions, and I personally am looking at the royal family as to which one could
Who's
it be?
the racist, yeah.
Who's the racist? But again, we have to also just take a step back. Do you know how much courage it takes to actually speak about racism, to actually call it out? Because I've been in situations where I haven't called out every single bit of racism that's happened to me based on how I've been treated or how it was handled in the past.
Because you're worried about a backlash.
And you're also worried about a backlash. And there will be people that will treat Harry and Meghan differently because they've spoken out.
OK.
But this is the whole thing. We've got to get comfortable talking about the uncomfortable. And that's why it's important for me and you to have this conversation.
Right, but let's just not make it personal. It's fine.
It's not...
You made it personal. But let's move on
you know
from
what?
that.
It's hard because,
Alex?
you know what, we talk personally about, you know, people on this show and we give our opinions on them, don't we? So actually, sometimes it does come back at you. We have to be... You know,
it's fine. It's just the way it was done. We can disagree about that. Let's move on. Well,
I think it's a
I don't think people really care too much about you and me anymore. It's
not about me and you, and I'm not here because...
Well, let's not talking about me and you then. Let's move on to the second part of their charge of racism. Meghan Markle said that there was a decision taken by the palace to stop Archie being a prince based on his potential skin colour. That is completely untrue. That's just not true. Now, the damaging effect of that, plus whatever may have been said to Harry, and we don't know what it was or the context, and we don't know who said it, but it was those two things have detonated as you know, a racially charged bomb at the palace, which is almost impossible for them to refute because they don't talk in public about this kind of thing. And people aren't probably going to believe them even if they do now. But that's what concerns me, is that the first part of that allegation, we don't know any of the details or who said it or how they said it. And the second one is completely untrue. Meghan just got it wrong. Archie hasn't been prevented from being a prince because of his skin colour. And that's been now believed by Americans on national television there. And that is damaging.
But again, do you know what? It's their lived experience and...
No, it's not true.
Well, look, Piers, it's their lived experience. And again, this is where the confusion comes in. You know, how do you sometimes identify covert racism? It's actually quite hard because it's not there for
But
you.
Alex, on that one, it's not true.
I know,
There's no covert racism.
But Piers, what you're saying is there are facts.
Right.
And what Alex is saying is there is an experience and a perception of those facts that you only appreciate when you're in that situation.
No, I'm sorry. On that second part, on the first part, I agree. If it turns out, let me make it crystal clear where I stand on this. If it turns out that a senior member of the royal family, a future king perhaps of this country, we don't know who it is. I don't want to cast... The aspersions are being cast because they won't say. But they have eliminated the Queen and Prince Philip. So they've gone halfway, which I think is incredibly unfair on the ones who are left. But say it is a future king that said this in a derogatory way. We can't have a racist king.
We can't.
So that, to me, would be racism. If it was said derogatory... But the second part of the charge, that, that Archie has been banned from being a prince because of his skin colour, is just untrue. It's nothing to do with racism. The fact itself on which he's based that claim is not true.
Except her perception appears to be that it might have been...
Well, it's like me saying the sky's blue outside. My perception is it's raining. You can't muck around with facts. She got the facts wrong on that. It's been demonstrated today in every paper that fact is simply untrue. There's been no discrimination against Archie in terms of being called a prince because of his skin colour, because he's not entitled at the moment to be called a prince. Just the rules of the palace, set 100 years ago.
The trouble is she's explaining her experience.
Exactly, she's explaining her experience of it. And do you know what? We've not walked in her shoes, so I wouldn't...
I don't care what your experience is, if the facts you're basing it on is wrong.
You're still entitled to perception. You know,
not about facts, you're not.
And that's also coming through lived
experience. But Alex, on that one, you're not entitled to... I don't care about her feelings if the fact is wrong.
What concerns me more is the comment about the colour of the baby's skin.
Right.
OK? We all feel passionate about different things. Yeah. OK? We've not even, spoken about the mental health and all of that.
Well, we're coming to that.
Well, we'll come to that. But, it's really important that we have these conversations because what I've noticed on Twitter, particularly over the last few days, is that this interview and what's happening with the royal family, the ripple effect is huge.
Huge.
To the point where me and you are on here, Alex, we feel so passionately about it, and it's great.
I genuinely feel...
And I want to talk about it, and I do feel as though, of course, if we find out who it is, I'm sure, you will be right behind me, and I'll be right behind you, talking about how wrong it is and how,
No question.
No question whatsoever. But what I find is that people don't always want to accept that it's a possibility that something like this has happened. And this is the thing with racism, right? Racism isn't always caught on camera. Racism isn't always a black man led on the floor with a white police officer's knee in his neck. Mm-hmm. It comes in all different shapes or forms. What I want to see is the same energy that we had back in the summer right now.
Yes, but let me just put a little dampener on this, right? One of the two charges of racism, perhaps the most incendiary, that actually he was being discriminated against because the Queen decides all the titles. So what she was basically saying is the Queen's a racist who stopped Archie being a prince because of his skin colour. We know that is completely untrue. So
look, I don't know that the Queen's a racist. I would like to think that the Queen is not a racist.
Right.
I don't think she is a racist.
My point is this.
Okay, but he's obviously got a difficult relationship.
No, but Alex,
and this is no ordinary family, Piers, because, you know,
I know.
as we heard from the...
But Alex, do you
yesterday,
accept on that point Meghan just got it wrong?
Like I said, I am not an expert on royal protocols. Right. I am not an expert.
But the experts who are have all said unanimously.
They've all said, but again, they've said something different. Piers,
I haven't said something different.
I'm happy to listen to both sides. Well, they feel a certain way. They feel that Archie hasn't been given a title because of the colour of his skin.
Prince William...
we know that's not true.
Well, hang on a moment. So Prince...
But you don't know that it's not true.
We do.
No, think about it.
Can we just talk about this particular fact?
If we think about the possibility that what they're saying is true and that they were worried about how dark Archie would be, it's also a possibility that they might not want him to be a prince. They might not want him to have a title. And the thing is, shock horror, these things happen in life. Unfortunately, this is the way it goes sometimes. Everyone's acting like they're fully surprised. I can't say that I'm fully surprised to hear these allegations, you know, and it is important to, you know, to realise that sometimes, you know what, we don't even know we've got these problems in our family. You might have an all-white family and one day someone of colour walks in,
I would love that.
And you find out... I know,
I would love that. Christian Goddard yesterday said to me, wait until one of your sons marries a black woman. I was like, I would love that.
And do you know what, Piers? I wouldn't be surprised if one of your sons brought home a woman of colour.
And what part of your knowledge of me would think I wouldn't embrace and welcome?
Piers, but the thing is, I'm not saying... That's what I'm saying. We have conversations on the show, we have conversations off the show, OK? And I don't feel that you are a racist. I'm sorry. And if people say to me, Piers Morgan, I will 100% say...
I don't have a racist bone in my body.
But because I'm judging you on my experience of you, and my experience of you is not that.
Right.
OK.
But that's why I just feel as though the stance that you were taking on it yesterday was so strong. I just feel that it was slightly clouded by the fact that you've had an experience with her, and actually what this is really about is the fact that you don't like Meghan Markle, and that's OK. You know what? And it's OK that Meghan Markle might not be perfect.
All that did...
It's
let me just stress
she might be a little bit difficult.
I did not know her that well. All it did was inform me that she has a bit of a streak in her where she cuts people out of her life when she moves on. That's fine. She's entitled to do that.
She's entitled to cut you off if she wants to. Has she said anything about you since she cut you off? I don't think she has, but yet you continue to trash her.
OK, I'm done with this.
No.
Sorry, no. Sorry.
Do you know what? That's pathetic.
You can trash me, mate, but not my own.
No.
See you later.
I'm being...
Sorry, can't do this.
This is absolutely diabolical behaviour. I'm sorry, but Piers spouts off on a regular basis, and we all have to sit there and listen. 6:30 to 7 o'clock yesterday was incredibly hard to watch.